and welcome again to Cooking with Love. Once again, as you can tell, I'm at the family home with Mom next to me. It's Carmela Verasso. And today we have a treat for you. We're going to be making Graham's raviolis. And you can't make raviolis unless you bring Mom along, because she's the one who shows us how to do that properly. And if you've watched any of these episodes, you've heard me talk about this book right here. And this is my grandmother's cookbook that my mother actually lovingly put together. And right there in the center is our ravioli recipe that we're going to use. And it is something you can tell from looking at this book that has been used quite a bit. So we are going to jump right into raviolis. We are making a cheese ravioli today, which is really all we ever make, but some people, of course, like to stuff them with all kinds of stuff. Yes, etc. Right. But we're just going to make the traditional cheese ravioli. And to do that, it's surprisingly simple. The number one, just like many Italian recipes, there's only a very few ingredients that you're using. And we're going to show you first how to make the dough. And then we'll make the filling, and then we're going to put them all together. So we're going to jump right in here. And per our recipe, we are going to start with 3 cups of flour, which we have here. We're going to put that right into our mixing bowl. Now, if you don't have a mixer, this is a lot tougher. But you certainly can do it without one. You just put it into a regular bowl. And what you would then do is add, in this case, we're going to add 4 eggs. We're going to add a little bit of salt here. I'm going to just throw a little of that in there. And then what I have here is some water, which I'm going to add as it goes along, because you really only want to add enough water to make it all come together. So the first thing I'm going to do is start with these eggs in the flour and put that on low so it starts moving around and mixing up. And as it does that, and I start to see the eggs all incorporate, we're just going to pour a little bit of this water. And Mom, I know this is about a half cup of water, but we won't necessarily use it all, correct? So we just go and really just a matter of adding a little more. Add about a tablespoon at a time. And you can see it's starting to come together. I'm using the dough hook for the KitchenAid, and it will take a few minutes to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this mix and collect all the flour along the sides, adding a little bit more water. And in just a few moments, I'll show you what that will look like as it all comes together. Okay.
Here we go.
Yeah, so what we're going to do now is Mom's going to show us how we make the filling. We have the dough set, which we'll bring out in just a minute. And actually, you can see it over here. You're all set.
Okay.
Now, the ricotta only has a few different ingredients, just like everything else. You start with a couple eggs, which she's putting into a pound of ricotta. We're using a whole milk ricotta. You can use a part skim. It's up to you how you'd like it. I think they have fat-free ricotta, but I've never used that and probably never will. But in any event, we're using regular ricotta right now. It's a pound with 2 eggs.
And you're going to add some cheese.
And that is just a fresh grated Romano, right, Mom?
Right.
And that's about a half a cup for a pound. If you have a particular taste, though, and you like a lot more cheese, and you want to add some other herbs into it, you're welcome to. But this is what Graham does.
And then this is not about a half a teaspoon.
Half a teaspoon of salt, maybe. A half teaspoon of pepper, somewhere around there. Maybe not even. It's probably like a quarter.
An eighth.
Yeah. And then you add a little parsley to this as well.
Yeah.
And all you do is just mixing this around to get it all equally incorporated. Parsley, it's probably more like a teaspoon or so, so she's going to be shaking for a few seconds there.
That's good.
All right. And then we're going to mix that around. And then, of course, like all good mothers do, she's going to just stick her finger there and taste it. You watch. See if it tastes right.
Yeah.
Ignore the fact there's raw eggs in there. If you're home, you can do anything you want. So, and that looks about right, Mom. You can see the parsley in it, but it's not, too green. It's a good consistency. It's not too watery. You're trying to make sure that it's not too watery. And to that end, actually, oftentimes, as you know, if you buy some ricotta and you open it up, there's a little bit of water and moisture that's kind of separated out. How's that? Yummy? Okay. It's a little bit of water and moisture that's separated out. You want to pour that off before you use it. You don't want to put that excess moisture in if you don't have to. So it looks like we're all set here. We have our ricotta mixture all ready to go now.
Right.
What we're going to do now is we're going to kind of clear the area off, and we'll come back in just a second with the dough we made, and we'll show you how we go to town on that and make the raviolis.
Perfect.
Okay, so when you're making the raviolis, the easiest thing to do, of course, is to buy a machine that helps you roll them out, because if you don't, you have to do everything by hand, which we'll actually show you how to do later. But before we get into actually making them, I want to just show you a couple of the different machines that you might find. And actually, you probably won't find this one. This machine was my grandmother's.
Came from South America.
It came from South America when she was back in the early 40s. So this thing is probably 80 years old or so at least. But all of them work similarly. Basically, they have a roller section here, and they have a handle which will go down to the roller section, and you'll turn by hand, or it'll come up here to the actual pasta cutting area, and you'll turn that by hand. I've spent a lot of time in my life turning this handle, as well as some of these others. But it is actually quite a simple, ingenious machine. What happens is there's a clamp that will clamp it to the side of your table so it doesn't move as you're putting the dough through. And it will roll it out into different thicknesses. There is a knob here that will you can change because you want to start a thickness or a big thickness, and then slowly make it thinner so that you can use it for the raviolis. Same is true for this. Now this machine here you can find just about anywhere. I think most stores have them. Same idea, just a little smaller. If you look at it, let me just tilt it up here. Again, you have the rolling part, just flattening the dough. This comes with a fettuccine cutter. You can tell from the size of the blade. And then this is a much smaller linguine or even angel hair cutter that is there. Again, has the knob. You just change it as you go along, which we'll show you in a moment. And then finally, we have the same machine, very similar. You can tell it's a little larger, but has the thing. But this is the motor. And this will save you all kinds of time. So if you can invest in a little motor here, that saves you from having to crank these all by hand. And it is, it's much more efficient with that. Trust me, I've made a lot of raviolis in my life. So we will be using that. And then the last thing I want to show you before I cut out here for a minute and then get ready to fill is, you know, again, if you've seen any of my shows, you know we have all kinds of things that we use for containers. And this is our Russell Stover's box, which my mother discovered probably 50 years ago at least, fit perfectly our ravioli mold. So this is what we're going to use to make our raviolis, which is something you can also buy, although I'm not sure where, to be honest with you.
The north end.
Go to the north end, there you go. This makes a dozen raviolis at the time, which we'll show you how to do. And I'm also going to show you, if you don't have any of this, what you can do. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a few seconds, I'm going to clear this up, and then we're going to bring everything back. We're going to roll them out and start filling the raviolis. All right, so we are now getting ready to actually make the raviolis. And what I wanted to show you is after we did the mixing of the dough, we got that right here in the pan. And that might be a little bit sticky, but not too much. It should be nice and smooth all the way around. That is what's really important. But the trick here is that you really need to let it rest for a couple hours, preferably in the refrigerator. It's a lot easier to work with when you do that. So what we would do now is we would wrap it up in saran wrap or a wet towel.
Right, even leave it overnight.
You can even leave it overnight, you're right. And put this in the fridge. And then after a couple hours at least, then you can come back and make it. So if you want to make raviolis or even pasta, because we're going to use the same dough for pasta, then you can always make it the day before, and then you're ready the next morning or whenever you want to actually pull it together. So I actually made some the other day, or I shouldn't say the other day, last night, and this is what this looks like. And I'm going to show you now how we take this same dough and we turn it into raviolis, and also we turn it into linguine or fettuccine as well. We're going to show you how we do all of that. So let me just move this one aside for now. And what we have here is, it's probably, I don't know, a couple pounds of dough that you get from this batch. And what I like to do is kind of form it into something a little more manageable. And then we slice just, maybe an inch or a half-inch slice is about what you'll need. Ultimately, what we're trying to get to is this right here, which is about the same size as our ravioli mold here. But before we go there, let me show you how we do it. We take this half-inch slice, and we kind of help it along with our hands a little bit, and start it off, if you will. And we're going to take a little bit of flour, not too much, because you don't want the dough to get hard. And the more flour you incorporate, right, Mom?
Right.
It's going to get hard. So we'll turn our machine to number 1, which is the thickest setting for the roll. And I'm going to turn on the machine here. Actually, I'll put it on low so we can talk over this. And you start by letting it take it in, and it automatically works through. You can probably tell immediately why the motor is so much better to deal with. So once it goes through on number 1, and you're going to turn it to number 2, and you're going to send it through again. And ultimately, you want to work this such that it is wide enough to cover the ravioli mold. Yes, I sent that one through twice. Sometimes you can do that if you want to, but now I'm moving it up to number 3. Now there are 7 settings on this pasta machine. Depending on how thick you like your pasta dough, you can stop at any point. We usually go to number 6 on this before we start doing it. So I am on 4 right now. So we have a couple more that we're going to do. We're going to send it through at number 5. Doesn't take that long when you have a motor, and it's a lot easier, so I would highly recommend, if this is something you want to play with, that you go get a motor, unless you have a small child. Because a small child will sit there and crank it for hours, just like I did as a kid. All right, this is the last one we're going to send through. So this is number 6, which gives it the right thickness to make the raviolis. We could go a little thinner, but I get a little nervous because of the filling. You don't want it when they're cooking to bust open. So this will be exactly what you need for the bottom of the ravioli. Now Mom's going to show you what we do at this point. And actually we can use this one here, Mom.
Which camera's on?
That one.
That one there, okay.
All right, so we begin by putting a little flour around the edges so it will come off after we make them.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm also going to put a little flour on the board and kind of rub the bottom of this on there.
Not too much.
Okay.
And then we put the slice over here. And here we go with the ravioli top. We'll put that and just press it lightly, not too much because you'll cut them up. So then we're going to take our filling and use like a little teaspoon for each little wrap.
And so you can see the mold she used right here just gives that little indent that the filling will fit in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take another one of these pieces of dough that we've rolled out, and we're going to use it as a top. And like I said, this will make a dozen raviolis at a time. So she's going to fill those up. Now the key here too is in order to make sure that they seal, what Mom does, which I'm guessing your mom used to do too, should take a little bit of water, which we have here in a little finger bowl here, and she's going to kind of outline all of these raviolis in just a moment with the water before we put the top on it. So if once we put the top on it, that water will help to seal them, and then we'll use a rolling pin to finish them off. So there we go. So she's got all the filling in.
Now we're going to take the water and just go down the edges. And that will give you a good seal. If you don't, you might have some broken raviolis in the water when they're boiling. But not too much, you just wet it up.
There you go. All right, and then what you'll do now is, I had one side of this has a little flour on it. You actually want to flip it over and try to seal it with the side that doesn't have the flour. You're good to go that way. So she takes that, just lays it right over.
Just gently touch down for that.
And
Then we take the rolling pin and we
can you come
roll
over this way?
over it.
And you can see if you're looking at the mold, it's starting to cut through, which is what you're looking for. Right now, you're looking at the bottom of the ravioli.
And you just want to get it. That should do it. So then we'll take off the extra macaroni and we'll put it aside so that we can use it again.
So we re-roll that for the next batch.
And then we put them
Hold
on the
on,
tray.
hold on.
Okay.
Let me just put a little cornmeal down,
I
right?
forgot about that.
So we put a little cornmeal on the tray just to help them from sticking. Now, if you don't have cornmeal, don't lose a lot of sleep over it. A little flour will do the same trick, or a parchment paper. If you'd like to use parchment paper, you can, but we always use cornmeal, so that's what we're going to do. And now go ahead, Mom, you flip them right on over.
And pray they come out.
There you go. Sometimes they need a little help coming out, and sometimes they don't, but you can see we've got a dozen beautiful raviolis right here. You can hold them there, because that camera will get them.
Okay.
That's good. We have a dozen raviolis, and then we'll just do another one. Now I'm going to also show you in just a moment how to do it if you don't have a mold, right? So what we'll do, since we don't have a mold, let's pretend we don't for a minute, Mom.
You think we should have made two?
Well, we can make another one in just a sec. Let me just show them here how we do it without a mold. What you do is in the old days, that's right, here, stand over here. What you'll do is you have this piece of dough. And then on one side, you're going to just put a little bit of dough, a little bit of mix in each one. About 3 inches apart or so, 2 or 3 inches apart. Now, growing up, this is how my grandmothers did them for the most part, because they didn't have the mold just yet. But you can still, again, use the machine. If you don't have that mold, this is all you'll do. You'll do it.
You love it.
Yeah, you put a little bit of mix down the line there. And then just like we did with the other, we're going to put a little water around it.
That helps it to stick naturally.
Mm-hmm. In between each one, just a little finger of water. Okay. And now she's going to fold it on over. You want me to? Here, I'll fold it on over. Here's your towel. There you go.
Thanks.
I'll fold it on over like that, just right over the top. And go ahead, Mom. I'll let you do it so I don't mess it up. And then you kind of by hand just form them, right?
Yeah. And then we get the cutter, good old-fashioned cutter.
So she's using a little pastry cutter here.
150 years old.
And then we're slicing them here. You can see okay there, Fred.
No, you know what?
Should go ahead and do that.
Wet part.
It's all right. And then in between each one, just individually. And this is how we used to always make them.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a ravioli cutter, you can certainly do that. Now, Mom, would you recommend that we also seal them a little with the fork? After you do that. So oftentimes,
them by this hand, yes, I would recommend you just taking a fork.
you separate each one.
Cut that good. And then just do this. Well, I don't know if you can see it.
Yep.
But
Just seal it down individually like that.
it doesn't have the teeth on it that the other one has.
Right.
There you go.
And that's how you make them individually. And then the last thing you do is we get a little toothpick or some sort of little tiny little knife or something like that. I'll use this knife for the moment, even though it's not tiny. And what you do is you just do a little pinch, a little hole in the top of each one. And what that does is when you're cooking them, it allows that air to release instead of exploding them. So just a little bit of a toothpick prick in each one of those raviolis is that little bit of love you need to make sure that in fact they all come out the way they should. So what we're going to do now is we're going to finish making some raviolis. We'll make up a few more, and then what we're going to do is we're going to show you how you use the same dough to make pasta. So we'll get to work here. We'll see you in a couple of minutes, and we'll have all the raviolis done. Okay, so now we've made a bunch of raviolis, as you can tell from there, and what I want to show you now is how do we make pasta. It's actually the same dough that we use for the raviolis. It's obviously an egg pasta since there's egg in it. And, you know, there's a lot of folks who don't have machines like this. And when you don't have it, or if you want to make it before you buy one to see if you even like making it first, then I would recommend you try it by hand first. Just like we showed you how to do the raviolis, I'm going to show you how to do the pasta. Which, again, was how most of the time growing up is how it was done here because we didn't have one of these for a while. Now, when you don't have the machine, you also have to roll out the dough to get it into these sheets, which we cheated, of course, and did not do. But all it takes is a rolling pan and a lot of effort to get a nice, thin, even sheet. And once you do, what we would do is this requires quite a bit of flour, and I'll show you why. First thing is you'll separate it out. Now, I want pieces of pasta that are nice and long. So what I'm doing is I'm going to flour it pretty generously. This is what my grandmother used to do. And she'll fold it over. Flour a little bit more.
On film.
Fold it over. Then we're going to flour a little bit, and then we're going to fold it over one last time. At that point, we take it and we're just going to cut it however thick we want.
Angel hair or linguine
or you can go thicker and do the pappardelle noodles, or you could go, you know, a little thicker and do the fettuccine noodles. We're kind of doing somewhere in between. And once these are all cut, because we have that flour on there, then you take them and you kind of loosen them in your hands, and you'll have nice strands of pasta like this. So you just loosen them in your hands, get that excess flour out, and what we'll do is we put them on a sheet pan of some sort.
a drying rack.
Or a drying rack if you have one, which I don't think we ever did. We always used a sheet pan. And you just kind of fan them out onto a cookie sheet of some sort. Or we used to use old boxes to do it, etc.
We used to put a tablecloth on the bed and put the macaroni on the tablecloth until it dried.
Right, exactly. So we do all of that. And so what I'm going to do now is we're actually going to, and actually before we go there, let me just show you one how to do the pasta on the machine. So what you would do is instead of hooking up the motor to the roller, we're going to hook it up to the pasta cutter. And we'll turn that on. As you can tell from here, we just send it right through. And this is an angel hair cutter, and you can see it from coming out the other end. We have company now, too. You're totally on camera, just so you know. And there we go. And what you have here is an angel hair pasta. And the angel hair pasta is because we used a smaller cut on this. There's also a larger cut that is more fettuccine-like that we can use as well. So all you do is you move the motor to the larger cut, fit it in there and secure it. And then we'll take this, and this would be a little bit of a smaller one. Oh, you want to use the larger one? We'll use the larger one. And there we go. And you can tell those are the larger noodles. Look a little bit more like what I did by hand. These obviously look a little nicer. And that's how you actually do your pasta using that same dough that we had for the raviolis. And that's it. So we're gonna finish making up the pasta. We're gonna finish making up some more raviolis with the excess pieces after we made them. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna boil some up and taste them. Okay, so now we have cooked the raviolis, but before we taste them, what I want to do is kind of review some of what we've done. First of all, if you can see on the table here, this minus about a dozen raviolis which we've cooked is everything you get from the amount of dough that made. So we have some angel hair pasta, we've got some fettuccine there, and we have about 3 dozen raviolis we made all out of that same batch of dough. So it just kind of gives you a sense of things. One of the things that Mom wanted to make sure I told you all is about this machine here. If in fact you have this machine, Mom, you never wash it, correct?
Never wash. No, just wipe it dry, with a nice dry towel. And then if you got fingerprints, you can take a little damp rag and clean them off. But as you can see, as old as the machines are, they're really in good shape.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want to get water inside these mechanisms because they'll rust. It's not that it's all nice stainless steel, high quality stuff. They will rust. They'll also interfere eventually with the making of the pasta. So just keep them, dust them off, and you're good to go.
Right.
And I think that's about it. Oh no, the last thing I wanted to tell you about is after you make your raviolis, your best bet is to take them on the cookie sheet like that, put them right in your freezer. And freeze them. And then after they're frozen individually like that, what you can do is you can take them and they'll break at all of those different seams. They'll break very easily. Put them into a Ziploc bag. And then when you're ready to cook them, you can cook them right from frozen, pop them right into boiling water. They're going to take
10
about
minutes.
5 to, well, maybe not quite 10. It depends on how soft you like your dough. Somewhere 5 to 8, maybe 10 minutes, depending on how much boiling water you've got in there. And then after that, you're going to cover them with sauce like we did right here. You can add a little grated cheese if you want to, which I'll do. And then you give them a taste. We were lucky, I didn't show you, but when we cooked them, they did not blow up. And that's a lot of that is because of 2 things. One, how well you seal them, which with the water that we put around the different edges, that helps, as well as that little toothpick hole that we put in. That helps to release the air as they're cooking and expanding from the egg that's in them. Mm-hmm. So there we go, let's give them a shot. And of course, the dough, it is delicious. There's nothing like fresh pasta dough.
Delicious.
And you can do this. It's a very simple process. You saw how quick you can do it and how easily you can do it, especially if you have a machine. And if you don't, it's actually quite easy with the rolling pin as well. You just gotta put a little more effort into it. But that's it. So there you go. Now you can go make raviolis and pasta for all your friends and enjoy.
Yeah, it's
Mangia.
fun.
There you
Bon
go.
appetit.
Delish. Oh, these are so good.
I know.
Yum.